Hey everybody, it's Matt from Matt's Fantasy Book Reviews. Today I wanted to do something a little bit different than I normally do. Instead of giving you a book review, I want to go through the 10 most anticipated fantasy books that are not released yet for me. Some of them are right around the corner. Some of them are maybe never going to come out. But these are the 10 that I'm most excited about. I certainly have well more than 10 that I can't wait to be released. So narrowing this down to 10 was not the easiest task, but I think I've got a good list together, and I wanted to share it with you in case and see what your thoughts are. So starting at number 10, this is a book that's coming out in the next month or two. This is The Glass Immortals by Brian McClellan. Brian McClellan, you may know from the Powder Mage books. He wrote two different trilogies, kind of like Joe Abercrombie's books. For the First Law, where they span two different time periods in different locations. But I absolutely love the Powder Mage. Powder Mage is within my top 10 favorite series of all time. As far as I know, it's the only books that Brian McClellan's ever done, and The Glass Immortals is a brand new series from him. So, I'm all in on Brian McClellan. I think he's wonderful, and I can't wait to see what he has in store. I actually don't know anything about this book. I've intentionally hid myself. I'm that kind of guy that when a new movie's coming out that I'm excited about, I don't even want to see a trailer. I might know the director or I know a couple really basic facts about it, but I don't want to be spoiled on anything. And I find that it's really exciting to read a book and just be all in without knowing anything. So I'm reading this because Brian McClellan's behind it, and I believe in him, and I can't wait to read it. So number 9, this is the number 2 Witness book by Steven Erikson. Steven Erikson's my favorite author, and Malazan Book of the Fallen is my favorite book series. So I am really excited by this next book coming out by Steven Erikson. It's further down my list, though. You might be wondering why, because if he's my favorite author and my favorite book series, he should be number 1, right? Well, the reason it's lower is, Witness is not part of Malazan Book of the Fallen. Witness is talking about a small-scale story that takes place after that main series. And the first book came out, and I liked it. I gave it a 4 out of 5, but it was not my favorite. In fact, it's probably one of my least favorite books that Steven Erikson's ever written. But I am excited about it. 4 out of 5 is good. 4 out of 5 is a good score. And it could easily be better than a 4 out of 5 this next book. The last one set things up in a way where it felt like you're really getting an idea where the direction's going. It ended on a super high note. All Steven Erikson books do. He's known for his amazing endings, kind of in that Brandon Sanderson-esque, everything comes together for just this amazing, over-the-top, spectacular ending. And that's what the first Witness book did. Just crazy magic, and you would never be able to imagine that sort of thing on your own. And the only person in the world who can even think these things up is Steven Erikson. And to put them into literary form, it doesn't get a lot better than that. The book was a lot smaller scale, though. In Malazan Book of the Fallen, part of the reason I love it is it's this huge, overarching, takes place over an entire world with many different continents and got to be 1,000+ characters. And this is a way tighter story about a way smaller thing. So I liked it, didn't love it, but that's number 9 on my list. So moving on, number 8, this is going to be The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. This, similar to The Glass Immortals, this is a brand new book series by Joe Abercrombie. Joe Abercrombie is by far best known for his First Law series of books. I think he wrote 9 books in the First Law universe, and this is his first foray since those finished into a new thing. He did write a few books before the First Law books. I have not read them yet. They're on my to-be-read list. But from everything that I've read, First Law is, by far the best books that he's written. Those are done. He finished it last year with his last book that came out, The Wisdom of Crowds, which was amazing. But I can't wait to see what he has in store. I did actually learn a little bit about this book, though. Somebody spoiled the synopsis for me, and it was so entertaining. I don't feel like it really ruined much, but I got to read it for you, because how cool is this? In a magic-riddled Europe under constant threat of elf invasion, the 10-year-old Pope occasionally needs services that cannot be performed by the righteous. And so, sealed deep beneath the catacombs, cathedrals, and relic stalls of the sacred city, lies the secret chapel of the Holy Expediency. For its highly disposable congregation, including a self-serving magician, a self-satisfied vampire, an oversexed werewolf, and a knight cursed with immortality, there's no mission that cannot be turned into a calamitous bloodbath. That sounds awesome. I'm in for it. I can't wait to read this book. There is no date associated with this book. My guess is it's probably a 2023, but that's a day one buy for me. And I'm a big Abercrombie fan. Can't wait to see what he has in store. Number 7 on this list is The Burning, The Lord of Demons. This is by Evan Winter. This is his 3rd book in the Burning series. I absolutely adore the first 2 Burning books. So much I like about those books. I love this totally unique, as far as I'm aware, of this African setting in a fantasy world. And the magic system is great. It's a little on the YA end, which I don't mind. It's kind of a growing of age story of this main character who's, the chosen one, essentially. And I love that stereotype in these books. I love it when a character overexceeds the limitations that have been put on him by the world, where, the rules of this world early on establish that he can only get, so high up in the world. And he ends up going, to the top. And I love it. I love a school setting, which this book has at the beginning. I love the large world, but not so large that it tries to show you the whole thing. It's a small part of the world, but a lot happens in it. There's invasions from other parts of the world to come get them. I love the mystery around it. There's so much left to be explored. This is Evan Winter's first books that he's written, and I'm really excited about it. I think The Burning is a 2023 book. But he comes out with books every, it feels like year and a half, maybe 2 years. So I'm sure that's probably coming out next year, or maybe the end of this year. Number 6 is going to be The Bloodsworn Saga, number 3 by John Gwynne. The Bloodsworn Saga, the 2nd book, came out, I believe, earlier this month. It was amazing. Easy 5 out of 5 for me. I love John Gwynne. Both his books were 5 out of 5s for me in this series. Could it be higher on this list? Maybe, but the next few books I'm going to go over are all huge books that I'm super optimistic about. So it's really hard to figure out what's going to be my top books in here. But, the Bloodsworn Saga is a classic John Gwynne, where it's, a Viking fantasy story. I'm not aware of a ton of those, but he is the king of that genre, and one of probably my number 2 favorite fantasy author of all time now. I love his previous books. Every book he's ever written is a 5 out of 5 for me. And, I'm hyped up. I was hyped up finishing that 2nd book, and it ended on a spot where it leaves you hungry for the next one. I'm sure this book's going to be probably a 2023 book, although I did hear a rumor that he's taking a little bit of time off. I don't know exactly what that means, but it's not. I imagine it's not some long-term thing. So maybe that slips into the 2024 timeframe. But really hoping that's a 2023 book. Moving on to number 5, I have Cradle Dread God by Will White. I don't know what number book this is. I feel like it might be number 10. I probably should have researched that before I came on live, but Cradle is amazing. There's a reason people call it Crackle, because it's addicting. You can't get enough of it. There are these kind of short books that are action-packed. Feels like a video game in book form, where, the first book did this cool thing that I'm not familiar with in other series, where it's kind of similar to what I said about The Burning, where it had this kid who has these severe limitations on what he's going to achieve in life. But by the end of the first book, I don't want to ruin it, but he kind of gets a vision about where he's going to end up by the end of the last book. And it is bigger than this world. You know, it's like enormously big. And every book, it's like he levels up, where he gets to the next rung on the ladder to get to that final step. So it really feels like he's like literally leveling up. He's getting these power swords. You know, you feel like they say like +5 strength on them. It's not quite that literal, but I'm a big video game fan. Will White does an amazing job with these books. I highly recommend it to anybody that's remotely interested in fantasy. You know, I've heard that, I mean, this is called the subgenre for this is progression fantasy, where every book, it consistently goes up and up and up. He doesn't take a down step at any point, within each book, he might stall out a little bit. By the end of the book, he's moving up another chain. I heard this is a big thing in like Japanese culture, this type of book. But I've never read them before. I have a couple in this progression fantasy that I'm going to read later on in the year. Not by this author. I think these might not be the only books that Will White's ever written. They may be, but I think he might have written some stuff before. But I think this is probably good. He comes out with a book every year, it feels like, by the end of the year. So this is very likely going to be a book that comes out at the end of 2022. The next one on my list is a book that everyone knows about, and this is number 4. It's A Song of Ice and Fire, The Winds of Winter by George R. R. Martin. A Song of Ice and Fire was really rekindled my love in fantasy books, probably, a decade plus ago. And I got really into them. I read them multiple times over. They just enchanted me. And I thought they were like the pinnacle of fantasy. I, like everyone, got frustrated that he wasn't coming out with the next book. And I started saying, what else is out there? And I started reading more books. And I realized for me that there's better fantasy books out there. But I'm still excited about it. I, like everybody, was disappointed with how the show ended. I wish I didn't watch it. I really wish I did. I almost didn't. And I wish I didn't, so that I could be spoiled by what this book is when it comes out. Unfortunately, I don't know if this book's ever going to come out. I don't have faith that it will. I was a moderator on the subreddit for A Song of Ice and Fire for a long time. I was so into it. And I've essentially just lost faith in it. I'm not mad at the author. He can do what he wants. There's other fantasy books out there that can keep me entertained. I'm a patient guy. So if it doesn't come out, it doesn't come out. But I am hyped about it. When it does, I will read it immediately, even though it'll be kind of a hate read a little bit, because I wish I wasn't spoiled on a lot of these major things. I know he says that the show didn't do it justice and it didn't do exactly what he wanted, but I get the feeling like the major plot points he told the showrunners of Game of Thrones, and that they are now ruined, which is unfortunate, because in fantasy I like to be surprised, and I feel like the surprises I'm going to get are going to be much more reduced from the 5 other books that he released. So moving to number 3, same category of not sure if it's ever going to come out, and this is Kingkiller Chronicle, Doors of Stone by Patrick Rothfuss. Patrick Rothfuss is almost unprecedented for how popular he is for a guy that's only written 2 books. But that's how good they are. I loved the first 2 Kingkiller Chronicle books. More so the first than the second, but I did love the second one. Gave the first one a 5, gave the second one a 4.5. I love Kvoth. I love his story. It enchants me. I'm really interested in where the story goes and how it ends up. I don't have any idea how it's going to end with one book. Maybe this is like news just to me, but I know that he originally planned to write a trilogy. I don't know how he can possibly wrap up all the plot points that need to happen in a 3rd book. So I'm guessing this probably gets extended out into like a 4th book. But unlike George R. R. Martin, I do have faith that Rothfuss will eventually get this book done. I know he struggled, I think, with some like mental health issues, which I'm super sympathetic about. The pressure on him to make an amazing book is probably unbearably large, and he is a perfectionist. And so I do think that if and when it comes out, it is going to hit that perfection mark again. And me and millions of other people are eagerly anticipating this book. Number 2 is a little bit of a surprise for a lot of people because these books are not quite as popular as some of the other books that I've written here. But it is Gentleman Bastards number 4, The Thorn of Emberlane by Scott Lynch. I love Scott Lynch. I love The Gentleman Bastards. Unfortunately, each of those books has reduced quality for me. I gave the first a 5, I gave the second a 4.5, and I gave the third a 4. But I do believe that these books can rebound back into that amazing quality. And the reason I'm so excited about it is a couple reasons. One is that first Gentleman Bastards book is one of my top probably 3 books I've ever read in my life. I recommend it to everybody. It's probably my number 1 most recommended book for people. In part because you don't really need to read the rest of the books. It ends on a point where you can walk away from that series and feel satisfied. And, it's so fun. Not only did I read it, but I did do the audiobook, and that audiobook is magical. I forget the name of the guy who did the audio for it, but it is breathtakingly stellar, and I highly encourage, if you have any interest in audiobooks, pick up the audiobook for Gentleman Bastards, the first book. The second book, I love pirate stories, and that was like a pirate thief story. I was in for it. The third one was a political election. I work in politics, so I thought I'd be more into it than I was, but the ending was weak, and unfortunately, I wish I liked it as much as the others. But part of the reason this is so high is it's been so long since he came out with that last book, like the other 2, King's Killer and A Song of Ice and Fire, that the longer we go without the book, the more anticipating I am. I know Scott Lynch has struggled with mental health issues. He's been very vocal about it. But he did come out with some comments not too long ago that he's taken some medication. He's going to push forward on releasing stuff and try to work on his nerves with his, he has this issue where he doesn't like to disappoint people, but just trying to get over that. I applaud him for it, and I am here for this book when it comes out. And that leaves number 1. The number 1 book for me is Stormlight Archive number 5 by Brandon Sanderson. This is not, if this was any of the other Stormlight Archive books, I would have had them lower on this list. But if you're familiar with the way that he's structuring these books, he's essentially breaking these 10 books into 2 chunks of 5. And this is the end of a full arc to his books. The next arc, I think, is a time jump and covers a totally separate cast of characters. I think they might be in the first books, but they're not the same characters that we have point of views for. Brandon Sanderson, I have immense faith in as an author. And maybe the biggest thing that I have faith in is Brandon Sanderson is his ability to plan things out. He doesn't write on a whim. He's not George R.R. Martin. He knows where he's going with it. He has plotted things out to a T. When he says he's writing 10 books, he's writing 10 books. When he says this is when it's going to come out, this is when it's going to come out. And so I believe that the 5th Stormlight Archive is going to be the best one of the bunch because it has so much to come together. The first Mistborn series, the first trilogy, that last book was without a doubt the best book in the series because it brought it all together. I know he's going to do it here, and I can't wait to read it. So those are my 10. Let me know what you think about the 10. Let me know if I missed anything that you're really excited about that I didn't have on this list. And thanks for listening.